that. Okay, I'm doing that right now. And while we have a little break here.
Okay, he's calling me right back again. So I'm going to have to. Hopefully he'll look at his messages. But people are asking you some questions here. Let's see, what was some of the questions? Let's see. You got hundreds of them here.
Well, while you're looking through those, let me...
Yeah, he keeps calling back on this thing. So if I answer it, your history. But maybe I'm trying to think.
Why don't we do this? We only have about 15 minutes left. Would you like to carry on with the last part with the interview yourself? Because if that would work, I'll bet people would love to hear him.
Well, let's see what happens here. I'm hoping he's going to, read your message you're sending over to him, and maybe we can get it resolved that way. Never had this happen before, because what's going on is that I see the phone call, but it doesn't allow me to add it on. So I'm trying to figure out, when you call here, are you calling my number or your my Skype ID?
I'm calling on Skype. I'm calling your Skype ID.
Well, maybe next time we'll just call the number again, and then I can just add. It seems like when we do the Skype ID thing, then that's where I'm having problems. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're experimenting here. I thank the audience for being...
I tell you what. You use your Skype. Call me on my regular phone number, Skype number. The 1-2. I'm going to disconnect from you, but call me at 1-253-203-6695.
Yeah.
And we'll see. Okay. Then maybe get them added on that way.
Okay, I will do that right now.
Okay. I'm sorry. He's up in the mountains too, and his Skype and my Skype or something is acting up, and I don't know which one it is. But when he's on the line, I can't take any other Skype calls going into the board here, and I'm board operating it for him while he's on vacation, and he's out there in the mountains enjoying the Bigfoot area and all that stuff. And wow. But let's see if we can get this going. If we can get this going, I don't mind if we run 10 minutes over tonight, and we'll try and make up for what's been going on. Boy, haven't had this problem in a year, and I'll tell you, when it hits big time. So let's see if we can get him back on here. Other than that, on Bigfoot, I'm just kind of curious, the listeners out there, how many do you believe that there is a Bigfoot? And have any of you encountered a Bigfoot? And also, what would you do if you encountered a Bigfoot? If you went out, well deep in the woods, would you carry a firearm, a sidearm, or a rifle? I'm just kind of curious, because I had an encounter back in the early 2000s, and I'll tell you what. The best thing I thought of was running, and that's what me and my friend did. We ran for about 2 miles back to the car. I tell you, I've never been so scared in my life. And I still feel very strongly on Bigfoot. If you're out there looking for them, they're going to be really hard to find. I think what happens when the people do encounter a Bigfoot is when, it's an accidental thing. You're out there, and all of a sudden, there is a Bigfoot, and they don't expect you, and you don't expect them. So anyway, I'm hoping we can get this situation here going. Okay, I'm going to try something else here. Okay, let's try this. Just bear with me for a minute longer. Okay, who do we have here?
This is Mike. I'm back.
Yeah, his cell phone died, and evidently what's happening is when he's using his Skype in, that won't, when he comes in and calls Skype, it won't allow me to add anybody, but I think it's because he needs to buy some minutes for his Skype. Oh, no, see, there it is. Do you want to finish like the last 10 minutes with me, Mike, and we can talk about it a little bit?
Sure, Gary, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know any other way to do it. Otherwise, we're going to be just hanging up on each other here steady, so I don't want to do that. So go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. If you've got questions from the audience that I can answer or any of that stuff, that'd be fine.
Well, some of the questions.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I have some questions here on the chat board. Is one that one of the people said that they have ran into a Bigfoot, not physically ran into one, but ran into the area where they thought there was a Bigfoot, and they noticed a stench. It was really bad. It smelled musty and smelled like urine, really strong. Now, have you ever encountered anything like that?
Never had to deal with an odor from any of them. And like I said, I've been up close and personal with them, and I have not gotten any smell. However, that is a typical thing that witnesses talk about.
Well, I don't know if you ever heard from Michael. I myself ran into a Bigfoot accidentally in the Canadian Rockies in the early 2000s. Me and a friend who just got done serving his internship. He's a medical doctor. He opened up a practice up by you, up on the South Hill, up where you live. And, we ran into one and actually got chased by one for about 2 miles back to the car. So I tell you, it was one of the more scariest things I've ever encountered. I can tell you that much.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty interesting. When did this happen?
I believe it was around 2002. We decided to go up to the Canadian Rockies to do pictures of old silver mines, old ghost towns, and we wanted to take pictures of a World War II internment camp. And that's what we did. We headed off there, and we were out there at an old Japanese internment camp from World War II. We were taking pictures, and my friend said, "Hey, look at that giant bear over there." And he says, "Why don't you look at it with your telephoto?" And I lifted up my camera and realized it was not a bear. And about the same time I realized it was not a bear, the thing put out the loudest scream. And it probably was magnified, too, because, on the one side over there in the internment camp was the mountainside where there was a silver mine. And the workings of a silver mine, it was still there, part of it anyway. So it kind of had an echo effect. But I tell you, it came after us. We ran. We got back to the car. It was approximately a 2-mile run. And when we got to the car, it was either it or a mate or a friend or whoever. There was one off from where the car was, maybe 25, 30 feet. And it was bending a small tree, maybe a 25-foot tree over like nothing. And it...
yeah, that's common.
Yeah, and it started screaming. And I got so scared, I got in the car, got the car started. My friend was not even in the car all the way. One of his legs were hanging out. And I drug him a ways away before I stopped and he could get in. But the thing threw a rock and hit the fender of the car and put a good-sized dent on the passenger front fender, which was really hard to explain to my wife when I get back home from the trip, because she just bought the car like 2 weeks before I went on the trip, and she felt sorry for me because she didn't think my car would make, that type of trip. And I told her, I said, "Hey, a Bigfoot threw a rock and did, and she kept saying, 'What were you smoking? What were you drinking? What were you doing? Now be honest with me. What happened to my car?'" I told her the truth.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for people to get their head around. And by the way, bears can't throw rocks. You have to have a thumb to hold a rock like that and throw it. So you got to be able to grasp it. So, well, that was an interesting encounter that you had. I haven't had anything like that. All of my encounters have been pleasant. So, but yours is not much different than several people out there where they were frightened by it, by what they were dealing with, and sometimes they do show aggression, which, like humans, we're not all the same. We're not all mild mannered, and some of us are aggressive. And you were in its area, and it wanted you out.
Oh, yeah, I
And
think
it got its way.
yeah, it's got it away. It wanted to scare us. Now, Ed Romans in Canada is their number one recording folk singer. And he was on my show back, I would say, maybe January, about March. He had an encounter last year himself up by where he lives, up in Canada. I don't remember what province. But he was out with his dog, you know. He lives out in the farmland type of thing with forests right by it. So they, decided he was going to go for a walk with his dog out in the woods on a path. All of a sudden, he said about 1,000 feet in front of him, he saw a Bigfoot, and it noticed him. And he said that the Bigfoot charged after him, and it was the same scenario as what I saw. Now, I only saw it about twice during that 2-mile run back because I didn't want to take a stop and see what was going on. I just kept on going. But he noticed the same thing. When it came after him, it ran on 2 legs, dropped down to 4, back to 2, back to 4, back to 2, and back to 4. And it chased him, he said, quite a ways. And then all of a sudden he turned around just before he got to the entrance or to the end of the path, and it was gone.
Well, that would shake you up a little bit.
I would think it would, yeah. And,
and how did the dog react?
He said the dog was scared.
Okay.
Just freaking out. It wasn't, the situation. Maybe the dog was just getting the vibes from him too. I mean, if he's really scared,
right,
then the dog's going to probably react the same way. It's like with me and my friend. It was a situation too where when we ran into it, we weren't expecting it. I didn't have even a weapon with me. I just had a couple cameras on me, the same with my friend. We were naive. We didn't even have bear spray. And the story is we rode the car maybe about 10, 15 miles down the part of the mountain, and we stopped in a little store. And the guy noticed that we were really shook up, and he was talking to us, and we said we saw a Bigfoot. And he goes, yeah, there's been Bigfoot, in this area. And I said, well, he goes, but you wouldn't have to worry so much about the Bigfoot. It's the bears. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, just last week, there was somebody out there hiking and got half eaten by a bear.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty dangerous here. And I haven't spent a whole lot of time in Canada. I went up to see a museum exhibit by Chris Murphy. And then I went up again. I was invited to speak with John Bendernagel, the late John Bendernagel, and which was wonderful because I got a chance to camp with him and share some experiences and get to know him better. And he was at the International Bigfoot Conference last year, and then shortly after that he passed. But so I was able to see him again there and talk with him. But I really enjoyed going up there. We were in I think it was Golden Ears Park there, and it was really nice. I really like it in Canada. It has a very very strong Bigfoot feel in that area. Well, I'm sorry that you guys both had bad experiences. It happens. Like I said, they're just like humans. There's some that are kind and curious and playful and mischievous, and then there's some that make it very clear they want you away. You're in their home, and they don't want you there.
Well, don't forget too. We were up in the Canadian Rockies. Now, the road we were on to find that internment camp was the off road of the main road. It took you, through the Rockies, and there wasn't many cars going through. I mean, you see a car maybe every 5-10 minutes, so it wasn't a busy area at all. And then the road we took off, was a side road which we had to drive in, a ways. So I mean, people walking into, unless it's like, and that was like probably early June, and there was still a lot of snow there on the ground at that time in the Canadian Rockies. Now, if maybe there is people walking around out there, but not like they would be probably around here in this state, because I mean, you're really out there. And, that was the whole point of putting the internment camp way out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was miles from anywhere. So I think, maybe a Bigfoot in that situation is going to respond different than an area where it's